You are listening to the Right of the Month podcast with Mike, Gwen, and Alex from Outside the Box Associates. Every month, your hosts will have a real-world discussion about rights that many of us take for granted from a different perspective, the lens of disability advocacy. It may look a little different, but we live, we laugh, and we love just like everybody else. And we share the same rights as everybody else. Join us as we explore the practical aspects of these rights. It may just change your perspective.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Rogers.
I'm Alex Jesco.
I am Lee Allen Hardney.
So today we're going to be talking about self-worth as people, particularly people with disabilities. So that's going to be our main topic, and thank you for joining us. So when I think of self-worth, I think of confidence. And I want to start out by saying that one time somebody was asking me in a training, how did you become so self-confident and have such self-esteem? And I said, honestly, well, it's because I've heard a lot of the common things before about disability, so I kind of know how to answer. And as well, I have lived a life. So when people disagree with me, I have the knowledge to say, no, I know what it's like to live on my own. I know what it's like to be treated with respect versus not respected. I've experienced those things on a weekly basis. So I am confident in myself that I don't have to prove myself to anyone to be accepted, that I built up self-confidence to know that I am a good person with the way that I am and who I am. What about you, Alex? What makes you, confident in yourself and have self-worth?
I would say, the things that I do, the people I interact with, the ability to believe in myself is a super strong point in that. One of the things that I run into quite a bit is this idea of, what is the value that I bring to my community and to myself, as far as how does that contribute to my own self-worth and the value that I bring to the world at large. And so by virtue of that, it allows me to reflect on how have I made an impact not only on myself but others, but also how have others and myself grown because of that self-worth? What obstacles have I faced because of my lack of self-worth, and things like that. So that's where I would go with that myself. What about you, Lee?
Self-value means independence.
How do you think of yourself as independently?
While he's typing that, I will also answer that question.
Sure.
As far as my own independence is concerned, having the ability to be a part of the community and interact with the community independently, as well as just being able to do the things I choose to do with my life, is great. And that's a great form of independence. Having the ability to choose how I want to spend my life is a great form of independence. So yeah.
Yeah, well, we're waiting for Lee to get his answer out. I want to say that independence for me is really just knowing that we always talk about equity. We want equity. We want to have the same opportunities as everybody else. I never thought that I shouldn't have the same opportunities as everyone else. Just because right now our society may not see the opportunities we should have doesn't mean that I don't think that I already have them. I'm trying to help society catch up. So, me going out in the community, as we call it, or in society, doing what I want to do is just what every other human being, you know, with the ability to, think, and make a choice does. You know, I just think that the rest of our society and the world has to catch up
I
with that.
agree.
With that, as far as people with disabilities, I never considered it our fault or something we got to prove to somebody. I know we gotta push for some of those things. That's unfortunately that's a um, part of our situation, but that doesn't mean that I'm supposed to gauge myself on the able-bodied person and say, I wonder what they think, or it's up to them what I should be doing. No, that's not what I believe.
Right. I also feel like that's actually a good point, because I actually feel like oftentimes we base our ideas upon success and independence upon an able-bodied definition of what that is, and not our own definition of what our own independence is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, because like you said, we kind of we use able-bodiedness and what we think the world thinks is quote unquote normal as our benchmark.
Yeah, as a
And
means of measure. Yeah.
yeah, and I've never really thought that y- you know able-bodiedness and you know being quote unquote normal, which I don't agree that there is a normal. I've never considered that the bee's knees anyway.
Right.
What makes anybody else better than me or worse than me or any of my, friends with disabilities or without disabilities, you
Right.
know, known or not known. So
100%.
that is just,
Yes.
Lee agrees with us. That's cool.
yeah, no. And I mean, look at us on the podcast. If you don't mind my saying, Lee, we are patient with you because you use an assistive speaking device sometimes. How many people in society can say that they're always patient with that? I think we are an example that not that many people can say that society does. You
Right.
know, we should be the ones I think sometimes look up to as the premium example of how to be in society. Sometimes I think,
Right.
and I
I am
think
not
that
really
well,
independent per se. I am interdependent.
you brought up the idea of interdependent. Interdependent means to me, I don't know if it's the same for you, Lee, that we rely on some help to do some things, if you have a physical disability, but that doesn't take away who you are and making choices, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also tend to find too, though, that people with disabilities specifically, at least in our little microcosm of the macrocosm, we tend to devalue our self-worth because we're not meeting those standards of able-bodiedness. So we kind of tear ourselves down quite a bit by virtue of not being able to meet those typical standards of able-bodied measure.
Oh, I think so too. Oftentimes, a lot of people will say that, oh, I don't think that way. But I think all of us struggle with that because it's natural to say, oh, maybe sometimes I wish I could be or do what this other person does that may not have a disability or have a different type of disability. So I think that's always a struggle, and that self-worth really comes in to being able to kind of overcome that and say, no matter what, I struggle with, I'm still worth as much as the next person.
Absolutely.
And I think my mission in life, and I think outside the box, is getting the people, that don't struggle with those things every day to think of us with that same worth.
Right.
And I think that is a lot to do with people with disabilities not achieving what they want all the time, is because they're constantly saying, I can't do it like another person can do it. I can't do this. I can't do that. Or
Right.
it may take me longer. And I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. So what if it takes me longer to do something? I still want to do it.
Right. I would say too that like we also have this we also have to build up our own definition of self-worth for us, just like anybody else. And but for us it's going to be different because we navigate the world and perceive the world differently, just like everybody else. But because our ways of doing that are not the common or the common denominator in society, we have to define the ways by which we bring self-worth to ourselves. So, I guess one of the things I would ask in particular, Mike, is what are some things that you do in order to give yourself self-worth? More, in other words, more confidence, more power, more ability, yada, yada, yada.
Well, I think one of the things that I do is I try not to view everything from the lens of, oh, I wonder how people are going to react if I say this. Like, for instance, say if I like somebody that I'm attracted to,
Okay.
it takes some confidence as a person with a disability to go up and say they don't have a disability. Say it's just a interable relationship, or what they coined is interable now, which means people with disabilities with somebody without a disability. I still do it. Even
Okay.
if I'm a little bit nervous, or what might they think about my physical situation and the wheelchair or the crutches, or what if I'm not able to be exactly what they are? I still go up and try,
Right.
because that's what builds up your what I call staying power, so that the next time you do it, you're even more confident, and you're not so nervous, or you're not so hesitant, and you may be rejected, several times. That does happen to people, and it seems to happen frequently for people with disabilities. But it tells me that I'm not less than the other person, and
Right.
so I let that bleed into my work. My what I want to achieve isn't less than another person. I don't want a job to prove it to anybody. I want a job to make money, and to live. I want to build outside the box to make the world better, make money and live just like anybody else. So building up that muscle by doing those spiritual workouts. What about you? What motivates you, Lee, to do what you do? Because you're very active.
Well,
Why do you, why don't you get down on yourself all the time? How do
I
you
have
keep
the
going?
unique perspective of being on both sides of the spectrum. I wasn't born like this.
right.
That's right. So you were not born with a disability. I had forgotten that. So what do you see as something that keeps you going, like Rocky or something? For that perspective.
Right.
What builds your Rocky?
Don't know.
Well, if I may, Lee, because I know you a little bit, I can say that your sense of humor is something that a lot of people, that's one quality that a lot of people look up to you for. even though it may not always be appropriate, but it's still something people admire about you. And I think that in itself gives you some self-worth too, because it shows that you're present and able to be among people and to interact with them in a way that's enjoyable. That in itself is
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
Also,
I like go on, Alex.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say I also believe too that Lee, it takes a lot of effort for the three of us, especially, to get up every day and to do the things we do. The three of us all have disabilities, and we all get up every day and say, okay, what are we doing today, and how are we doing it, regardless of the fact that what we do, and physically speaking, for the three of us, we all have our own quote unquote struggle that we deal with, and by virtue of that, by facing that struggle, quote unquote, every day, gives us self-worth in itself. So continue, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry. No, that you're right. It's that staying power. It's doing what, like a lot of people have said to me, I don't know if I could do what you do. And
Yeah.
what I do is just regular to me, but it does take a lot of effort. And I love what you said about Lee's sense of humor, because anybody that knows me knows I love comedy. I do comedy.
Yeah.
And I find that if you can laugh about difficult situations or laugh about something that you feel is just every day, that permeates the people that you're around, because they say, how can you laugh about that? And I'm like, well, I laugh about it because it's, getting up every day and getting dressed and, making sure that I have a meal prepared, and that can be more difficult than the average person every day for people with physical disabilities.
Yeah.
And if you can laugh about that, you are making that ordinary.
Right.
That's just like everybody else making their life ordinary. You're making it not special. You're making it respectable, but not special. And I think that goes a long way in in realizing that the world isn't over because you have a disability.
Right. It's how you cope with that gives you a sense of self-worth as well.
Yeah. Totally agree.
And acknowledging that we live in a world that is still, unfortunately, still pretty ableist for the most part. We live in a very ableist world still. It's gotten a lot better for sure since the ADA Act, but we still live in a very ableist world.
Oh yeah, everything is ableist. I'm not being pessimistic, but
oh no, that wasn't my point. My point was essentially that we still function in an ableist world.
oh yeah. I was just gonna say I'm not being pessimistic, but I think we do great because the things that are stacked against us, and not in a cry me type of way, but the things that we have to overcome just because of going out the door, trying to get jobs, trying to be respected in that way. I think it builds us as a community, and I think all three of us, along with many others, are change makers by just doing those little things. Like you and I the other day were talking, Alex, about the fact that not many people, you don't see many people in our community actually in the community a lot, on a regular basis, just being there. And I think us being out there, showing people and encouraging others to be out there is, really builds a sense of self-worth. I'm actually making a change. You're making a change. Lee's making a change by being out there. We talked about the mall, but even just being, where Lee, where you have me, you take meetings sometimes out at the mall, showing people that you're there. I think is very important, and that also should build your self worth because you're doing something.
Right.
I guess what motivates me is endeavoring to get back my abilities.
Endeavoring to get back your abilities. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with trying to, I don't want to say improve yourself, but because we don't need to improve, but better our situation. There's nothing wrong with that. Sure, going to a gym, going to therapy, physical therapy, or any kind of spiritual or mental health therapy. Yeah, great. So I think these are tools. Just keep going. I'm a big Rocky fan. So then Rocky talked about taking the punches and keep moving forward, right?
Right.
Keep moving forward, even through all the challenges, and doing that with or without help of your agency or because things may not be exactly the way we need it. I know, Alex, you've talked about that, doing something in spite of the supports maybe not being there.
It's about believing in your own power and giving yourself the ability to believe that you have the means to do it, whether you know that or not. At least having the ability to try, that's the important part. To find out for yourself if you have the ability to do something or not. Because if you don't try, how can you ever know, really?
I wanted to spend the last couple minutes here talking about the idea of self-worth and the way sometimes parents view people with disabilities. I think in my life, having self-worth really taught my family something. I'll never forget when I was honored, for the social justice work that I do at an event, and my family had never seen an event like me at an event like that, or what I do for a living right now. They and then after that, because they were invited after that, they said, "Wow, what you really do is great. We're proud of you." And I achieved things in spite of what family may have had expectations, especially living on my own with a physical disability. So I think we can also help family members learn some things that they may not have thought just because they think they know us.
Absolutely.
I think that because a lot of what I think hangs people with disabilities up is really wanting that, go ahead from the family, because a lot of times family supports us, and if the family doesn't say yay, yay, or, do that cheer, people are like, well, my relative says that can't be done.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it. It's not realistic. Many things in people's lives, the electric light wasn't realistic.
Yeah.
Who would have thought we could have developed light cars and all those other things? People told them, "Oh, that's not going to happen. You can't do that." Look at what we have. Because people said, "I'm going to do it anyway."
Absolutely. Lee, do you have any final words?
Yes, my parents always pushed me.
Your parents always push you. Yeah, that's great. One thing about my parents too, they never said no. They never said no. We don't want you doing that. So I think that helped me as well. So yeah, they can be a positive force as well.
I agree.
Well,
I would definitely say also my supports did the same for me. My family, my friends, my therapists, all those people. They never said, "Oh, don't do that." They said, "Try at least, at the very least." So
Yeah. Trying is very important. You might fail every once in a while, but if you don't try, you never know.
Yep.
Well, we want to thank everybody for tuning in to our podcast here, and we want to encourage you to listen to us on Heartability Radio, and like Outside the Box on Facebook, and we are going to be launching our Twitter, so become a part of our community there.
Yep.
And wherever else we land, visit us and become a part of our community. And
Yep.
Thank you for listening.
Yep. Thank you for listening to Outside the Box. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Right of the Month podcast with Mike, Alex, and Gwen from Outside the Box Associates. The Right of the Month podcast airs every Thursday and Saturday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Heartability Radio. Listen on Live 365 or www.heartabilityradio.com. We'll see you next time.